What you are about to hear is real. 3 Amazon delivery drivers, 3 routes they will never forget, 3 nights that ended with them questioning everything they thought they knew about the houses they delivered to and the people inside them. Stay with me until the end of Story 3. You'll understand why when you get there. I'm your host. This is Creepy Silent Hour. Let's begin. Before we get into it, if horror narration is your thing, you are in the right place. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. It costs you nothing. It means everything to this channel. Now, lights off, headphones in, let's go. Story 1. She signed for the package, but her obituary ran that morning. Marcus had been driving for Amazon for 3 years by the time any of this happened. 3 years of routes, 3 years of porches, ring doorbells, apartment intercoms, suburban driveways, and rural mailboxes at the end of half-mile dirt roads. 3 years of faces, quick, unremarkable faces, opening doors just long enough to take a package and disappear back inside. He had learned over those 3 years not to look too long. You learn that quickly in this job. People don't want to be studied. They want their package. They want the transaction to be invisible. A knock, a box, a signature, a goodbye. That's the entire relationship. That's all it ever is. Marcus understood that. He respected it. It was one of the reasons he was good at the job. The morning this all began was an October morning, a Tuesday, cold enough that Marcus wore his jacket zipped all the way up and kept the van's heat running even while he loaded. The sky was the color of old concrete, flat, low, with no gap in the clouds anywhere. He had 63 deliveries on his manifest that day, nothing unusual. He'd run routes with 80 before. 63 was almost comfortable. He was 40 minutes into his shift, 11 stops completed, coffee still warm in the cup holder, when his phone buzzed with a news alert. He didn't read it immediately. He was pulling into a cul-de-sac, watching the house numbers. He noted it in his peripheral vision. Local news, something about a woman. He'd read it at the next red light. He didn't get to a red light for another 20 minutes. When he finally looked at the notification, the headline read, "Beloved Oakfield teacher Eleanor Marsh, 67, passes after brief illness." He skimmed it, a school portrait, gray-haired woman, kind eyes, the kind of smile that belonged in a kitchen rather than a news article. Died Sunday evening, survived by her daughter and 2 grandchildren. Services to be announced. He set his phone down, continued the route. Stop 31 was a house on Clover Hill Road. He pulled up, checked the manifest, 1 package, signature required. He grabbed the scanner, grabbed the box, medium-sized, Amazon smile on the side, and walked up the porch steps. He knocked. He waited. He was about to mark it as attempted delivery when he heard the lock disengage. The door opened slowly, not all the way, just enough. A woman stood in the gap, gray-haired, kind eyes, the kind of smile that belonged in a kitchen rather than a news article. Marcus went completely still. He recognized her face, not from personal memory, from the photograph, from the news alert he had read 20 minutes ago. He was looking at Eleanor Marsh. He was looking at a woman who, according to the Oakfield Courier, had died 2 days ago. She looked at him with no particular expression, patient, waiting. His training kicked in before his brain did. Package for, he checked the scanner, Marsh, 31 Clover Hill? "That's me," she said. Her voice was quiet, unremarkable, the voice of a woman who had answered 1,000 doors. He held out the scanner. She signed. Her handwriting was neat, looped, the handwriting of someone who had spent decades marking papers. She took the package from him with both hands. "Have a good day," she said, and she closed the door. Marcus stood on the porch for several seconds. He looked at the scanner. The signature was there, E. Marsh, clean and complete. He walked back to the van. He sat behind the wheel. He pulled up the news alert again and read the full article this time. Eleanor Marsh, 67 years old, retired 4th grade teacher, 31 Clover Hill Road, Oakfield. Died Sunday evening following a brief illness. He was parked in front of 31 Clover Hill Road. He looked at the house through the windshield, curtains drawn, porch light off even in the flat gray morning, a ceramic pot by the door with dead flowers in it, the kind of detail you don't notice when you're in transaction mode, the kind of detail that only arrives after. He drove the rest of the route in silence. He didn't tell anyone at the depot. He didn't know what he would have said. He kept turning it in his mind, the same sequence on a loop, the alert, the face, the signature, the door closing. He searched for Eleanor Marsh that night. The obituary was up on the funeral home's website. The photograph matched exactly. Same gray hair, same eyes, same smile. Services were scheduled for the following Saturday. He checked his scanner records. Stop 31, signature captured, E. Marsh, 11:47 a.m., Tuesday, October 14th, 2 days after she died. He has run hundreds of routes since then. He still drives for Amazon. He says the job is the same as it always was, except now, every time a door opens and a face appears in the gap, he makes himself look, really look, because he understands now what he didn't understand before. The transaction is never as invisible as you think.
Story 2. The last stop on my route didn't exist until that morning. There are rules in this job that nobody writes down. Not in the training manual, not in the driver app, not in the orientation packet they hand you on your first day with the laminated badge and the yellow safety vest. They're the rules you learn by instinct, by repetition, by the quiet understanding that accumulates after enough time alone in a van, enough hours watching neighborhoods from behind glass. One of those rules, the one that matters most for this story, is that you trust the manifest. The manifest is generated before your shift. It's locked. It reflects real orders placed by real customers at real addresses. The system doesn't make things up. It doesn't add stops. It doesn't invent houses. Daniel knew this rule. He'd been driving for 14 months. Good driver, fast loader, clean record, the kind of employee that depot managers assigned to the longer, more complicated rural routes because they knew he wouldn't get lost and wouldn't call in with excuses. The route he was assigned that November morning ran through the eastern edge of his county, a stretch of farmland and second-growth forest where addresses were sparse and spaced far apart. House numbers in the 2000s, roads with names like Old Mill and Harrow Creek and Boundary Line. He'd run a version of this route before. He knew the general geography. He did not know Sutter Trace Road. It appeared as his final stop of the day, package number 47, address 9 Sutter Trace Road, signature required. He noticed the name while loading. He'd run the eastern route 4 times. He had never heard of Sutter Trace Road. He pulled it up on his phone. Google Maps returned no results. Not a stub, not an unverified road. No results. The road did not exist in Google's database. He tried the app's inbuilt navigation. It found the address, dropped a pin in what appeared to be dense forest about 6 miles east of his last confirmed stop, and generated a route. He called the depot. Relay said the order was valid, fully processed, customer confirmed. Sometimes new subdivisions didn't update in public map databases immediately. Follow the app. Daniel followed the app. He completed stops 1 through 46 without incident. By the time he turned east toward Sutter Trace, it was 4:20 p.m., and the sky had already begun to darken. November light in this part of the county gave up early. By 4:30, the tree line was just shapes against a fading sky. The app took him down Boundary Line Road, then instructed him to turn right onto a road that wasn't marked. There was a gap in the tree line, a gravel surface, no sign. He turned in. The van's headlights cut a narrow corridor through the trees. The gravel road was in good condition, no overgrowth, no potholes, recently maintained. That should have been reassuring. It wasn't. A road maintained by someone, a road used by someone, a road that existed for someone. 9/10 of a mile in, the trees opened into a clearing. There was a house, single story, white clapboard, black shutters, a porch light burning, a car in the driveway, late model, clean, no mud on the tires despite the gravel road. Everything about the house said occupied, current, present tense. Daniel sat in the van for a long moment. He checked the address again, confirmed. He checked the package, confirmed. He checked his phone, no signal. The app was running on its last cached data. He got out. The clearing was very quiet. No wind, no animal sounds, the kind of quiet that isn't natural, the kind that feels like everything that makes sound has decided, collectively, to stop. He walked up to the porch, knocked. The door opened immediately, as if someone had been standing directly behind it. The man who answered was in his 50s, flannel shirt, grazing glasses pushed up on his forehead, completely ordinary. "Amazon," Daniel said. "Package for this address. Need a signature." The man nodded, signed the scanner without looking at the package name, handed the scanner back. Daniel set the box on the porch. "Long way out," Daniel said. He wasn't sure why he said it. He usually didn't make conversation. The man looked at him for a moment before answering. "We like it that way," he said. Then he picked up the box, stepped back inside, and closed the door. Daniel drove back down the gravel road. When he reached Boundary Line Road, he pulled over and tried his phone. Signal returned immediately. He searched Sutter Trace Road again. Still no results. He searched the county assessor's database for addresses on Sutter Trace Road. No records found. He searched property ownership records for the parcel coordinates his app had logged. The land was listed as undeveloped forest, no structures, no permits, no owner of record beyond a land trust registered in a state 3,000 miles away. He filed a route discrepancy report when he returned to the depot. The depot manager reviewed it and shrugged and said sometimes rural addresses were misclassified in the county database. The order was delivered, the signature was captured, the customer was satisfied. Case closed. Daniel went back the following weekend. Personal vehicle, daylight, nothing official. He drove down Boundary Line Road to where the gap in the trees should have been. The tree line was unbroken, no gap, no gravel, no road. He got out and walked the tree line for a quarter mile in both directions. Nothing. The forest was continuous, undisturbed, as if nothing had ever been cut through it. He still drives for Amazon. He has never been assigned to the eastern route again. He has never asked why.
Story 3. He was standing at every address on my route. This one comes from a driver named Caleb. He posted it in a private forum for gig workers, the kind of place where people trade stories about bad customers and dangerous dogs and neighborhoods where you learn to keep the van running, and it got shared enough times that it found its way to me. I've verified what could be verified. The rest I'll leave to you. Caleb was 26. He'd been driving for Amazon for 8 months. He worked the suburban ring south of his city, the sprawl belt, as he called it. Streets named after the farms that used to be there: Meadowbrook, Harvest Glen, Old Orchard, the geography of things that no longer exist. His route that day was 41 stops across 11 streets. He started at 9 a.m. The weather was clear, one of those flat, cold, winter-bright days where the light is sharp and everything casts a long shadow. He noticed the man at stop 4. He told himself later that noticing was the wrong word. Registering was more accurate. The man was simply present in the visual field, standing at the edge of the property at 14 Meadowbrook Lane, near the mailbox, not moving, watching. People watch delivery drivers, homeowners, retirees, work-from-home residents. They watch from windows, from porches, from driveways. It's not unusual. Caleb registered the man, filed him under normal, delivered the package to the porch, returned to the van. As he pulled away, he glanced in the side mirror. The man was still standing at the edge of the property, still watching, not the house, watching the van. Stop 7 was on Harvest Glen Court. Caleb pulled up, grabbed the package, walked to the door. When he turned back toward the van, the man was standing at the end of the driveway. Same man, he was certain, same dark jacket, same posture, completely still, arms at his sides, facing Caleb with no expression. Caleb did the math automatically. Harvest Glen Court was 1.4 miles from Meadowbrook Lane. He had been driving his route for 11 minutes. There was no practical way this man had arrived here on foot. He kept his face neutral, got in the van, drove. He told himself there was an explanation. Maybe the van lived here too. Maybe he was visiting. Maybe Caleb had been mistaken about the face. People look alike, especially at distance, especially when you're moving quickly between stops. Stop 12, Orchard Park Drive. Caleb saw the man before he got out of the van. Standing at the foot of the driveway, same jacket, same stillness, same orientation, facing the van, not the house, waiting. Caleb sat behind the wheel and thought carefully. He could call the depot. He could skip the stop and mark it as unsafe. He could drive away right now. He had 29 packages left. It was 10:40 a.m. It was broad daylight. He got out. He walked past the man. The man did not speak, did not move, just watched Caleb walk up the driveway, set the package, walk back. Caleb got close enough this time to see his face clearly. There was nothing wrong with it, nothing overtly wrong. It was a face, eyes, nose, mouth in the right configuration, middle-aged, unremarkable. But the eyes weren't tracking him the way eyes should. They were too still, too even, like eyes in a photograph rather than a person. Caleb got in the van and drove. He called his wife, kept his voice steady, told her what was happening. She said, "Call the police." He said, "And tell them what? A man is standing near houses on my route and I don't like his eyes?" He kept going. Stop 35, stop 39, stop 23. The man was at each one.
always at the property line, always still, always facing the van, never the house, never the package, never the porch, always Caleb. By stop 38, Caleb had stopped trying to explicate the logistics, the distances, the timing, the impossibility of the man appearing on foot at addresses spread across 4 miles of suburban grid. He had set all of that down somewhere and decided just to finish the route. Keep moving. Don't stop longer than necessary. Don't engage. Stop 38 was the second to last delivery. The man wasn't there. Caleb noticed the absence the way you notice when a sound you've been hearing for hours suddenly stops, the silence of it, the negative space where something should have been. He delivered the package, got back in the van, drove to stop 39. Stop 39 was a house on Meadowbrook Lane, different number than stop 4, the other end of the street. He pulled up, he looked. The man was standing in the driveway, but this time he was different. This time he was closer. He was standing 15 feet from the van rather than at the property line. And this time he wasn't facing Caleb. He was facing the house. Caleb sat in the van with the engine running. He looked at the manifest. The package was signature required. He stared at the man's back, the dark jacket, the absolute stillness. He picked up his phone and called the depot and told them he had a safety concern at stop 39 and was marking it as undeliverable and returning to the station. The depot said okay. He drove back. He never saw the man again. He submitted a formal incident report. It was logged, acknowledged, and filed. Nobody followed up. He still thinks about the last stop, not the man specifically, not his face or the jacket or the impossible logistics of his appearances. He thinks about the fact that the man turned around. For 38 stops, every single one, the man faced outward, faced the van, faced Caleb. At stop 39, for the first time, he turned toward the house. Caleb doesn't know whose house it was. He never delivered the package. He never went back. He says he's glad he doesn't know. He says some things you don't want an answer to. He's probably right. 3 drivers, 3 routes they will never forget. Eleanor Marsh's signature is still in the Amazon delivery system, logged at 10:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, 2 days after she died. Sutter Trace Road is still listed as undeveloped forest in the county assessor's database. No structures, no permits, no records.